If you've been unfortunate enough to be plagued by plantar fasciitis, I bet you've been told by a bunch of fucking people that all you need to do is have more arch support. And while that may be a perfectly valid short-term solution to help alleviate some of that pain, I want to help you understand that that pain might be a symptom of dysfunction and the actual problems coming from other places, and how that arch support addressing the symptom may end up leading to bigger problems down the road. Now, in order for you to understand why I'm making this point, which I completely understand is 100% contrary to everything else you've ever heard and everything else here on this fucking YouTube thing, what I need you to understand is what the plantar fascia actually does and why it might have itis. Now, I've recently posted another video, which I'll link up here or there, one of the places, that talks about some of the common deficiencies I've seen through movements that end up leading to plantar fasciitis. I want to speak a little more specifically in this video to why arch support to address plantar fasciitis may end up causing more problems. Now, what I talked about in that video and what I'll briefly recap here is what your plantar fascia is. It is a band of tissue that runs from the front section of your calcaneus, your heel bone, to the balls of your feet or the metatarsal heads, and its primary role is that of a shock absorber. You may be unaware of this through all of the talk about arch supports and oh my god, you pronate. The entire fucking purpose of the arch of your foot is to collapse, to absorb shock, and what then happens is as the arch of your foot collapses down to be more flat, absorb some shock, then the front half and the back half of your foot, your forefoot and your rear foot, spin on each other in opposite directions to create a solid locked lever off of which you then push through your foot and through your big toe in order to propel yourself forward. In the other video, I go over a couple of specific deficiencies in your hip joint and hip muscles around that joint that may be causing your plantar fascia to, instead of just collapse this much and your arch to collapse this much, it ends up collapsing this much, which then means that the band of tissue under here that's supposed to absorb shock is absorbing more than it needs to, not because it's the problem, but because a bunch of shit up here is not pulling enough slack for the plantar fascia down here. So we don't have all of the players working together on the team. We have one player on the team trying to pick up the slack for a bunch of the other people that aren't doing what they're supposed to. So that brings us to the possible introduction of arch support. Now, we've already ascertained that this was feeling like garbage because a bunch of stuff up here, depending on who you are and the situation that's going on with your body and different ratios and amounts, was leading to this collapsing too much and the plantar fascia getting overstretched, so it got itis. Then you're like, foot's kind of feeling gnarly. Let's go to the doctor. So we go to the doctor and we say, yo, doc, my fucking foot kind of hurts. And then they're like, let's see, does it hurt when I do this? And you say, yeah, it doesn't feel great when you do that. Thank you. Then they say, ooh, you know what that tells me is you've got plantar fasciitis, which is just a kind of more Latin-y, sort of fancier way of saying what you already told them, which was my foot hurt. And then they say, you know what my 12 years of fucking school gave me as a revolutionary fix for this is a piece of plastic. So we're going to shove that situation under there, which accomplishes the short-term goal of making your foot feel better, because now this doesn't get to collapse at all. It's essentially in a cast. It does not collapse to absorb any kind of shock, so your plantar fascia doesn't go on stretch, so it gets some time to recover, so now it doesn't hurt as much. So our short-term goal of the plantar fasciitis getting better has been accomplished. Fantastic. If arch support really fixed plantar fasciitis, you'd wear it for a little while, take it out, and it wouldn't come back. I can't even fucking remember a time where I had somebody who had plantar fasciitis put arch support in, took the arch support out, and then it didn't hurt anymore, because now, as we already ascertained, and I'll fucking say it again, this was overstretching because of other stuff that wasn't working the way that it was supposed to. This was a compensation that hurt and wasn't pleasant, so we got something that took care of that in the short term. However, now this doesn't get to move a single bit, which means that this doesn't get to collapse even the right amount that it's supposed to, meaning it can't collapse and absorb shock. It can't spin and lock on itself to create a solid lever with a depressed first metatarsal and a dorsiflexed hallux, which doesn't allow you to push and roll off of it, which means now your hip's trying to compensate for the fact that this doesn't move. But wait a second, my hip already didn't work great, which is part of the reason that this was here in the first place anyway. So we got this was shitty, this was picking it up, now this can't do anything, now the stuff that was already shitty is trying to pick it up, and the only thing that's fucking caught in between there is your knee joint. And your knee joint is just a hinge, okay? It's not a true hinge like an elbow. I know there's a little bit of spinability in here. It's not a fucking true hinge joint, but for our purposes, we'll say it doesn't spin or it doesn't spin very much. It definitely doesn't move side to side. But if this is immobilized, this already sucked. Now this is trying to spin and it's trying to bend and go side to side all at the same time, which is grinding down all of the cartilage and the meniscus and the passive structures in here. Then you're like, man, that arch support really helped my plantar fasciitis, but why do I have sciatica now? Why does my knee hurt? maybe I should take these out. Okay, I took them out. Now my fucking foot hurts again. And these things kind of feel better. But now there's just this super frustrating game of whack-a-mole going on. And this frustrating game of whack-a-mole is going on because we're constantly chasing symptoms. This was hurting because of shitty stuff up here. We chase this symptom. Now we've got symptoms other places. So then we get a knee brace on this and we start stretching our hip joint to try and get rid of our sciatica, which only works for a little bit of time. And then it fucking comes back anyway, sometimes with a vengeance. We're trying to chase the symptoms as opposed to understanding the interrelationships of all of these joints and how these bones move together and how connected it is. And no, I don't mean like white girl at Burning Man connected, like, oh yeah, you know, I put a nice comment on my girlfriend's Instagram post and then someone got me a free coffee at Starbucks because I'm a Capritarius or whatever. Like, not that kind of connected, but like, this is connected to this, which is connected to this, which is connected to this. And if there's a lack of ability to do stuff up here, something else is going to have to pick that up. If we're chasing symptoms too much, we'll just end up with chasing symptoms and pushing them into other places as opposed to understanding what is the cause of the thing that I have going on. Now, what I do not want and what I can foresee happening is a bunch of people commenting on this video saying, man, I took my arch support out and it just felt the worst it's ever felt. Duh, because you've had the shit under there for years and years and years. You can't just take it out cold turkey and expect these things that have been casted and immobilized to all of a sudden pick up the work that they haven't had any requirement to do for a long period of time. Think about it like this. If you had a child who lived in your basement until they were 40 fucking years old, eating nachos and Cheetos and Doritos and whatever other Eatos and playing video games without ever having a job because mom and dad would pay for whatever new video game upgrade they wanted. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, Joe, time to fucking go get a job. Is that kid going to be able to handle having a job? No, because they haven't had any training over 45 years on how to fucking do that. Same thing with this. One of my favorite sayings is the dosage determines the poison. A little bit of taking it out and going for a little bit of a walk will be great over time, gradually building up little by little. But if you just take them out, burn them in effigy because I said that, which I didn't say, then you're going to be coming back commenting saying that I'm an idiot. Okay, I'm an idiot in a lot of ways, but not when it comes to this stuff. So what I hope this video's done is helped you understand a little bit more about the complexities of plantar fasciitis and how the seemingly simple fix of plastic under there might make it feel better enough for you to think it's a fix, but may end up contributing to some of the other problems that you may be experiencing. And if you rely on that arch support for too long of a period of time, it may end up creating some of those problems that you don't have yet, but you definitely don't want. So in summary, don't just throw them away and burn them, but if you need them for certain goals and certain times for short periods of time, it's a valuable tool to have. It's a more sustainable approach in the long term to get your foot to do what your foot's supposed to do and not rely upon plastic to do it for you. And that way, you're going to get all these bones and joints to collapse and spin and lock and push off with this down and this up in all the ways that it's supposed to happen, meaning that you can do more, you can recover faster, you'll have less knee problems, you have less hip problems, less sciatica, and your body will feel and move better if you do that in the correct way over time. It is a simple concept, but it is not easy to apply. So if you have questions, put them in the comments below, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you enjoyed this video, because I'm going to be posting a bunch more stuff like this.